So that's a canary in the in the coal mine that basically saying, hey, if the most powerful country in the world could not sell all of its treasury bonds on a particular day, what happens to other less powerful economies that are even more indebted than us, like Japan or China?
I just can't imagine working for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, building wealth just to see 40% of the profits just gone forever, right? Just laying down and saying, here you go, Mr. IRS. It's tough to fathom, but people have decisions to make. And I guess there's the $33 trillion, Neal, that someone needs to pay down. I don't know, but any other thoughts on that?
It's impossible to pay that money down. There are no known scenarios in which the United States will pay down its debt. Hyperinflation or high inflation is a method that will work for a short amount of time. We can basically make some adjustments, and the 33 trillion might stop growing for a year or two if you're in high inflation. But then it has its own problems. High inflation has its own problems. So the United States, like most countries in the world, is on an unsustainable debt path, and it ends with some kind of a crash. And when that crash occurs, any kind of physical asset that is hard to create, like real estate or Bitcoin, for example, it's hard to make new Bitcoins now compared to 10 years ago. When you have these kinds of assets that have a fixed supply or somewhat fixed supply, commodities, for example, during, at the end of that crash, you're going to see massively higher values for these. Now, during the crash, everybody will suffer, including all of the real estate assets. So they're suffering all across the board. But if you can get through that process, you're going to see the most dramatic increase in your wealth that anyone will ever witness will occur at the point when the government makes an adjustment. And there's multiple different kinds of adjustments. I am a fan of the bail-in theory. So when the government stops being able to sell bonds, which they're having trouble with, by the way, a few weeks ago, for the first time in US history, the United States tried to sell treasury bonds. And at the end of the day, they were not able to sell all of them, right? So this is the first time it's happened in the history of this country. We are the reserve currency of the world, and still ended the day with bonds that went unsold. So that's a canary in the in the coal mine that basically saying, hey, if the most powerful country in the world could not sell all of its treasury bonds on a particular day, what happens to other less powerful economies that are even more indebted than us, like Japan or China, that have even higher levels of debt? So I think that it's very important to understand that physical assets have value today and have cash flow. But the biggest reason anyone should be buying physical assets in the long term is you need some kind of insurance from what governments around the world are doing. We've printed about $30 trillion across the world in just the last 3 years, and that is just an absurd number. The numbers are so large that people have stopped understanding how big they're getting and how unsustainable this is.